Hello, everyone. My name is Gary Gomes. I'm here to talk with you about Vedic astrology, how it relates to the world, how it affects the world, and how it's reflected in the world, and also how it's reflected in your lives. Um, this is a bit late for me to be doing this on a Sunday night. I had to work today at my store, Crystal Expectations. Um, the store is open. Normally Tuesday through Saturday, 1 to 6 p.m. And we're opening on extended hours for Christmas. So if you'd like to come down to the store and meet me in person, if you're in the area, if you're in the New Bedford area, or even if you're a little bit out of it, I'm down there. And we have a lot of nice stuff from all over the world. A lot of spiritual items and jewelry, books, crystals, incense, a lot of great things. And we've been there for 38 years. So I just wanted to give a plug to the store today. We have been open for about a year and a half after being closed for a few years because of a house fire that we had. So, yes, we're back um, meeting the public. Again, we have been for about a year and a half, but I just wanted to spread the word. And if you want to contact me for readings or for lessons, my number is, so we're at Crystal Expectations is at 854 Brock Avenue, New Bedford, Massachusetts, 02744. Again, and the phone number there, or you can call me directly. The phone number for the store is 508-990-7898. And or if you want to call me directly, if you can't make our hours, call me at 508-525-0001. Again, I'll repeat that because I stammered a bit. 508-525-0001. And if you can't make it in our assigned hours, please call me. I'll be happy to arrange to meet you down there. And it's Christmas time right now. Happy Christmas to everyone. And it's also Hanukkah time. So it's the season to be giving gifts. And we have lots of neat gift ideas down there. If you would like to contact me for a reading, you can use the same number, 508-525-0001. And you can also email me at garygomesg@gmail.com. So again, if you're interested in lessons, I've been a practicing Vedic astrologer for 35 years. I have a pretty respectable background in the field, and without pumping myself up, and I'm not going to restate my resume, but I've been doing this for about, oh gosh, it's been about 30, a little bit over 35 years now. And so, yeah, if you want to contact me, I'd be more than happy to hear from you. And let's go on to the actual chart we're going to put up for today. This will be shorter than normal. And again, it's not because there's less happening, but just basically because it's getting a little bit late in the day, and I do have to. So I will definitely do a longer broadcast next weekend because uh, that'll bring us into the new year, and I want to give you a good overview of the new year. As a matter of fact, it might run a little bit over long next weekend. So I'm going to just focus on the chart that we have right now in the sky on December 21st. It's about to change seasons. Um, happy. solstice. So those of you who celebrate the solstice, and let's look at the actual astrology chart. So I'm not going to be going into a lot of different countries. Um, I did want to recap something I mentioned last week, and I don't know if you remember, I said that there would be a lot of people would be very quick to temper, very quick to anger. This week, we had the shooting. Interestingly enough, the fellow was captured, or the fellow was identified and found uh, by somebody who spotted him or knew him from online, an online presence, or it was somebody who notified the police about it being online. But I think one of the things about this was there was there was too much of a it's just almost like a classic in bad communications because um, we had various politicians telling us number one that they caught the guy, and number two that there have been no more killings, so there was nobody should be alarmed, um, et cetera, et cetera. So it was sort of a really I'm just trying to think of the words to use. It was it ranged from we've got the guy to we haven't got the guy to don't worry he's not anywhere around to oh wait a minute we found him and he killed himself and he's dead. Uh, the other thing is, and again when I was telling you the sun and Mars conjunction in Mula Nakshatra was a very difficult one. So we have a lot of people who are angry at our president for the things he said after Rob Reiner's death, which I don't blame them for. I didn't think it was appropriate. And the other thing is we also have people who are angry at the Attorney General for not releasing the full Epstein files, but there are also people who are angry at what the Epstein files, as they have been released, have shown so far, and they reflected so far, they reflected badly on the Democrats, not so much on the Republicans. And it's apparently exposed a lot of people who are in high positions of authority. Um, I regularly read political commentary by Matt Taibbi, and I think one of the things that we have to be careful about with Epstein, especially with the Epstein files, is there's no question that part of his operation was involved in um, linking young girls up with powerful men. But the problem is that for a lot of these cases, we don't have the specifics of what the involvement was. So you have some people with some very high reputations or some very uh, strong reputations who, if they did engage in those acts, should be um, excoriated and should be definitely be shunned by society. However, we really don't know the full details of what happened down there, at least not in terms of particulars. So, so don't get me wrong, I'm not defending Epstein or these people in any way, shape, or form, but we're missing certain linking facts um, in the actual case. So, but again, there's a lot of anger about the case. Obviously, there's a lot of anger about the case, and um, have more than a passing familiarity with somebody who was victimized in this particular situation. So yeah, it's not really. I'm just trying to think of a good way to say it. We don't know the whole details. We don't know the whole scenario, and I think um, so. Two members of Congress are apparently going to hold Attorney General Bondi in contempt of Congress or charge her with contempt of Congress because the papers weren't released or all the documents weren't released by Friday. So again, so I'm not even talking about who is right or who is wrong in the situation, but it's that Sun-Mars conjunction. Okay. So it will make people say stupid things. It will make people say rash things. It will make people destructive, essentially. Um, and the so I think this is very interesting. Also, Venus is coming into this nakshatra as well, so this can be tough on relationships over the next week or so. So just be very careful, just in general terms, where you see romantic involvement or with your partners or with anybody just in general, because you don't know what's going on with them or how they'll react. I This is a very um, dangerous time of the year anyway, mainly because people are upset or disturbed about the season or feel under a lot of pressure. But also politically, it's going to be so the fifth house in this chart, as I'm pulling this up right now, the fifth house is the house of politics. And so it just so happens, I guess I was meant to talk about it at this time of day versus earlier. And so this will give, quote unquote, some rash determinations or some rash actions on people's parts. We're going to continue to see elected officials take surprising twists and turns, um, like the congresswoman from New York. God, I can't remember her name. I'm so sorry. Um, it's right. It's right on the tip of my tongue. I was watching a story today, and she was going to run against for governor of New York, and well, the name's right there. Um, and she's also decided not to run for Congress again. So I think you'll see a lot of snafus. Benjamin Netanyahu came on the air this past week, essentially threatening Europe, and so there's going to continue to be a lot of fighting, um, and both internally for both parties, for both Republicans and Democrats, and externally. So we're already hearing about Democrats that are talking about um, contesting elections because the Democratic rep or senator wasn't aggressive enough, and we're going to have another government closure or a potential government shutdown at the end of January. So I expect the House of Politics to be very active over the next month or so. The House, this is also a sign which is connected with higher education. So Brown ended up looking a little bit ridiculous in the shootings. It looks like they weren't prepared in any way, shape, or form for this kind of an incident. Again, who could be, but it looked like they were. So there were security cameras all over the campus, but for some for some reason they had the only shot they could get was the back of this guy. So I'm not saying it was their fault. That's not the idea. It's just he just stretches credibility a little bit. And the other thing is be prepared in about 2 weeks for like a massive slew of lies and especially media manipulation of events. Um, there are some congressmen who are very concerned about the Venezuelan bombing, uh, the bombing of the ship. I believe it was an oil tanker, and they're viewing it as a prelude to war. And I wouldn't be surprised if the United States got into a local war sometime uh, after July of next year, mainly because when Jupiter goes into Cancer, that's when the United States likes to go to war for allegedly patriotic reasons. And I think I so I think that would be the time I would pick, not earlier, although it's possible because we have the United States has a K2 subperiod coming up very short, in March, I think it is. But and K2 can set off all kinds of riots and conflicts. But I think you'll see that more in terms of incumbents facing serious electoral problems. Now, for instance, and I've been talking about Europe and the rest of the world increasingly turning more conservative as Jupiter goes into Cancer. And there's a natural urge to say, oh, no, 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 they're not going to do that because they, these societies are nice people and they don't um, they don't believe in closed borders. But uh, if you look in South America alone, Chile has um, just elected a fairly, excuse me, sorry, uh, has changed, has just elected a fairly conservative, um, not conservative, actually, a fairly Trump-like um, figure to his presidency, overwhelmingly, I might add. This wasn't a narrow margin. This was like a 70-30 win. Now again, there are other parts of the world where we've seen um, elections that have gone the other way. So, but those tend to be local elections. They tend not to be national elections. And so a local election is going to reflect the politics of the local area. So let's say you have a Virginia a or a New Jersey. Those people, by voting for liberal candidates, are actually voting conservatively. And you're probably saying to yourself, well, Gary, what kind of doublespeak is this? And but it's not doublespeak. If traditionally those districts have voted Democratic, they will continue to vote Democratic as Jupiter goes into Cancer. If the districts have traditionally been Republican, it's more likely that the Republican will retain a position. Now, a lot will depend on which way the economy goes over the next year, and I'll give you, as we get a little bit closer to 2026, the 2026 midterms. We'll look at this a little bit more carefully. We'll probably look at it next week a little bit more carefully. But but I'm just telling you from my experience, people tend to get more nationalistic or more regionalistic uh, as as Jupiter goes into Cancer. That's just been my experience. They become more traditionalistic. So if their tradition, if they don't feel their traditions are being violated, let's say, or they're being questioned, they'll vote, you know, a liberal state will vote liberally. They'll vote for a Democrat or they'll vote for a moderate Republican. If an area feels like its traditions are being threatened or its economy is being threatened, they will vote more conservatively towards a candidate who will promise a return to better times. Okay. And I think that's one of the basic standards of human nature that a lot of people have tended to have forgotten. And that is essentially what most elections are pocketbook elections. Most elections focus on economics first, cultural coherence secondly, and third, if it's important at all to them, they'll vote in terms of whether or not they feel their freedoms are being taken away. So that's so that doesn't mean it's low on the list. It just means it's not the most important thing. For so let's say we have a choice between going out on the street and saying so and so is a bad person. Is that more important to you than, let's say, being able to feed your family or pay your bills? And so I'm not speaking ethically as to whether or not it's the right choice to make. I'm saying that survival is Maslow's basic hierarchy of needs. You take care of, which I had actually thrown out the window when I was younger, but I can see the wisdom in them now. And the Maslow hierarchy of needs starts from the foundation that your material needs and wants are taken care of first. Then you can focus on your higher goals. So the material needs are the basic material needs are food, shelter, and this little pyramid that goes up. And spiritual pursuits are like right at the top of the pyramid, but they're supported by all this other stuff. So most societies don't function like yogis or like renunciates or like monks. They function more like, well, do I have a nice warm place to put my head? Are the people that are surrounding me easy to communicate with or work with? Do I need to worry about them doing things that would seem weird to me? So that's emotional comfort. And if material and emotional benefits are not being met, the needs for control or freedom tend to fall by the wayside. And a lot of societies forget this. And so whether or not any party succeeds will largely be based upon whether or not those base level needs are being met. Then they can look at the loftier goals. Okay. So at least right here, there's a general distrust of kings or leaders in the air, at least of traditional leaders, because K2 is and Leo is going into Cancer. So you have this strong desire for change, while at the same time Saturn is moving into Aries and it's making people very insecure about the future. And start to see this again and again and again. And a lot of countries are in what I would call debtor nation status. They're not lending money to other people. They're living on the good graces of, of other countries. So when you hit a situation like that, uh, you're not going to be worried about, do we have enough? the country may in fact have enough resources for immigrants coming in, but it will not feel like they have enough. It will not feel like it will feel if they have fear of personal safety, they will also tend to vote more um, restrictively in terms of who they want to see in their country. And the Chilean president started in that direction. I can remember maybe around 2007 or so, Chile was considered one of the great growing economies in South America. Um, and and it was um, it was really sort of like a model for economic success. And that has tended to go away over the past dozen or so years. So I think you're seeing this kind of they had a little taste of prosperity. It got snatched away, and they want to see it back. They want to see a return. And that was basically how Trump got reelected as well. You know, there were other reasons, obviously, um, but but at least for the Trump election, but basically, and not all of them good. I'll be quite honest with you, but um, a lot of them were based around survival. A lot of them were based around the feeling that things were changing too quickly. So if we have this particular combination over here with Saturn weakening, which tends to weaken stability, Rahu heading towards Capricorn, which tends to weaken stability as well, and Ketu in Leo, which makes us kind of upset with the fixed order anyway, or the way that we're being told we should um, be managed. Then you have a potent combination for a lot of turnover in seats. Okay. And that's not only true in the United States, it's also true around the world. Okay. So keep that in mind. Mercury's in the fourth house. There'll be a lot of um, focus on conspiracies. That's definitely true in what's happening um, in terms of uh, Israel. And so Israel's being blamed for, um, and I don't know how true it is, but they're being blamed for doing all kinds of secret activities and trying to influence people around the world. And the Saturn and Mars aspect, unfortunately, leaves leads both parties to a kind of, or both positions to a kind of uncertainty about the future, but also this need for purity, this need for Jupiter's aspecting all these planets. We want everybody who represents us to be at least nice or pure. And Mars aspects Saturn, and Saturn's in a square to Jupiter. So that insistence upon um, strong ethics, upon um, being held accountable for what you said you were going to do versus what you're promising to do and you haven't succeeded in doing yet, that's going to play a very large part of all our lives over the next 2 months or so. Okay, so we just keep that in mind. For next week, we have a new moon today, so this does indicate a change in cycle. And around Christmas, we'll have a Moon Rahu conjunction, so maybe a little bit too much celebration, a little bit too much anxiety about the future. Then Towards the end of the week, the moon will be in Pisces along with Saturn, so maybe even a little bit of depression around that time. So this doesn't necessarily mean that things are going to go to hell and you're not going to have a good holiday, but just watch out for those emotional symptoms, okay? Um, I'm going to so many problems with pop-up screens right now. So let's look at your individual charts for this week. Let's start with Aries, which goes from April 15th to May 15th. So that was more of a diatribe about the political general political winds. But K2 is sort of like a wild card. K2 is a really disruptive planet, as is Rahu. So again, um, I know I'm giving myself a bit of wiggle room, but especially after February to March of next year, when the United States K2 Mahadasha starts, or K2 subperiod starts, excuse me, Rahu K2 starts, we'll see the full extent of how far this change in American life is going to take us. So I'll discuss that more fully over the next few weeks. So let's get back to the Aries, the actual sun signs, moon signs, and rising signs. So for Aries, Aries has the Aruda Lagna is in the first house. Aries goes from April 15th to May 15th. The Aruda Lagna is in the first house, and that's the sign of the first house being in the first house. And Mars is the Lord of the first, is in the ninth. So this should be a relatively lucky time for Aries, both romantically, although people will be overly sensitive, um, in terms of education and also in terms of leadership. So it should actually be a relatively lucky week for Aries. Jupiter's in the third house, aspecting that entire ninth house combination. Saturn's in the 12th house, again, a little bit too heavy on the expenditures. That's true of a lot of signs this week. And it's not just because it's Christmas, it's been because it's been difficult to make ends meet over the past couple months. So we have 3.5% inflation over a base, maybe around 9% inflation between 22 and 23. So it's very rare that you see prices drop down. It takes a long time for prices to drop down um, below spikes in inflation. Hopefully they will, though. And Jupiter's aspecting this entire cluster. So that means that basically whatever Aries wants, it may be able to get. K2's in the fifth house. Children will be a little bit unruly or difficult to deal with. Mercury's in the eighth house. That's not a bad placement for fulfilling goals or ambitions. It'll be a lot better within about 11 days, though. And Rahu is in the 11th house, so friends may seem a little bit um, opportunistic or a little bit um, taking a bit more advantage than seems reasonable. Let's put it that way. So Aries doesn't have a bad week, going a really good cycle, but I would also caution folks about spending. For Taurus, May 15th to June 15th, Jupiter's in the second house. Some gains from spouse or relationship partner. Relationship partner may be a little bit flirtatious or a little bit, seem a little bit sneaky, but essentially the money will come in. K2 is in the fourth house. Also, if Mercury's in the seventh, they may want to party more than usual, so that's not necessarily uh, an element of infidelity. K2 is in the fourth house. Some problems with family members, some arguments with family members. Rahu is in the 10th house, some dissatisfaction with career for Taurus. And Saturn is in the 11th house. Gains, but slow gains. Again, we're stuck in that kind of situation. For Gemini is June 15th through July 15th. We have relatively good relationship pattern, although there will be fights with relationship partners. Um, and this sign will seem more sexually attractive than normal soul Taurus, by the way. Um, the Lord of the first, so Jupiter's in the first house, gives this sign luck in career. Also, Mercury, the Lord of the first, is in the sixth house, so it'll give it ability to overcome enemies. We have a lot of planets in the seventh house. That usually means a lot of relationship opportunities for the sign. But I would recommend not getting immediately into a relationship until, looks like my clothes, there it is. Not getting into a relationship, at least for another couple of months, or not a serious relationship for another couple of months. Saturn's in the 10th, very good for work life, good for leadership, good for elevation in life, but a lot of work connected with it. Uh, but a lot of work is connected with that elevation. Or for Cancer now, Cancer has, this is July 15th to August 15th. Cancer has K2 in the second house, so it can be misunderstood. It can say things which are a little bit off form, a little bit blunt, a little bit too blunt. Mercury's, so that's the only downside to this. But their intuition will be very strong. Mercury is in the fifth house. Some difficulty with children acting up or wanting to party a lot. And Mars, Venus, and Sun and Moon are in the sixth house. So a lot of potential enemies or a lot of potential um, temporary adversaries for this sign over the next few weeks. Um, Again, a lot of effort, maybe effort connected with the government, connected with family members like mom and dad, or siblings, or even relationship partner. Um, so it's going to be a little bit difficult for this sign. Rahu is in the eighth house. That also can mean relationship partners are difficult to please. Saturn is in the ninth house. Good for luck, but very slow movement in that direction. Um, I think overall, when you're looking at these planets, Jupiter does the best job because it's in the 12th house. It'll allow this sign to save money. So that's at least one good thing for Cancer. For Leo, Leo has no planets in the first house. The sun is in the fifth house, so it's in the house of politics, but also of intelligence. So this sign will be very smart this week. The only problem is it'll also be very argumentative, and again, we'll say stupid things. So this was, um, I'll see it. So this is August 15th to September 15th. This is uh, that's where the sun is for Leo. This will affect politicians saying or doing stupid things. And it will make leaders very vulnerable. But overall, for Leos themselves, Their intuition will be sharp. It'll be right on. Uh, it'll be very, very good, very, very instinctually accurate. So uh, they don't even have to think about something, and they'll realize something is wrong or something is a bit bizarre in somebody's behavior. The only caution I would give to Leos, Leo suns and Leo rising and Leo moon, is the K2 can make someone fearless, maybe recklessly fearless. So that's something that they should be careful about, because there is a tendency to take what I would call seriously unorthodox chances. Chances are they'll beat the odds in most cases, but not all cases. So that's something to keep in mind. So when you take risks, make sure that you know what the downside will be if you don't succeed. Okay. Um, Mercury is in the fourth house. Not bad relationships with family members. A lot of focus on politics, both at work and within family and with children. So, I mean, political relationships don't just exist in the world of politics, they exist in the workplace and also in the family and also in other areas of life. So politics is basically about relationships. It's about how you deal with other people, how you get them to agree to do what you want them to do, those kinds of things. So it sounds rather transactional, and I don't mean to make it sound cold, but there is a certain transactional nature about human relations. We do tend to engage with each other basically on what fills our belly, and the fifth house is connected with the stomach. Okay, so Rahu is in the seventh house. There can be some problems with relationship partners, or relationship partners will want to be the center of attention. Saturn is in the eighth house, opposition from people who are poor or pessimistic or um, want to keep things as they have been. Let's see now, especially if they're among the downtrodden, okay? Jupiter is in the 11th house, and Jupiter in the 11th house does mean this sign gets almost everything that it wants. Um, and what it doesn't get will be relatively inconsequential in terms of its larger goals. For Virgo, it starts around September 15th, ends around October 15th, and we have the Sri Lagna is in Virgo, so that actually is a good indicator of money, but it is aspected by Saturn, so partnerships will not provide a lot of money, or they'll be tough partnerships. The Lord of the first house is in the third. Again, whatever the sign wants, it'll get, but there will be complications in terms of vehicles and responsibilities around the home, and also a feeling like you're beginning a new stage in life, at least over the next week or so. Rahu is in the sixth house. Rahu is in Aquarius sign, is in the sign Aquarius, excuse me. And that usually indicates some problems learning new skills or learning to deal with new technology. It will help you out, but it's not something that comes easily. And finally, we have Jupiter over here. I want to look something up. Jupiter is in the 10th house of career, so this should give some gains in career. This sign is also drawn to spiritual life this week, but it should also watch out for overspending. For so this isn't a bad week for Virgo. Not a good time for new business relationships or romantic relationships, though. If I'm being totally honest. For Libra, Libra has Gati Lagna. It will get some fame this month, some success. and let's see now, but also some hardship because of virtue being placed in the first house. Um, so these are Gati Lagna is a calculated sign which is connected with fame and career. Mauritiu is kind of an aggressive planet, which can be a little bit self-defeating. It's like a small Mars. So it's fear and panic. So Deimos and Phobos, the children of Mars. So Mauritiu is sort of like um, fear and panic going in the first house, and it'll make this sign rather pessimistic about what it can do to change its destiny. So that will pass. Don't let it for your course. The other thing is Venus, the Lord of this first house, is in the third house. So there's a strong desire nature to this sign, but it's also cognizant that it has to be relationship, career, and friends and obligations to friends. So all those things have to be met by this planet and by this sign. And it wants to do those things. It wants to make money and also help out relationship life. But again, it feels like it's starting over just a little bit. Saturn is in the sixth house. This is not a bad placement. Saturn's not in one of its favorite signs, and it just left its own sign of Aquarius a few months ago. But Saturn will at least give perseverance and willpower in order to succeed. So, so there will be some slower moving enemies or some people who seem to be a little bit um, more reserved than you are. They will stop you from doing things you want to do. But I don't think that will stop you from pursuing your goals or your dreams. Jupiter's in the ninth house. That's a good position for Jupiter, makes a person want to learn more. And the 10th house Lord is in the third house. So there's a strong desire to start a new career or at least to try to modify the current career so it produces more favorable results. So this is not a bad placement for the sign. K2 is in the 11th house, so gains from unusual sources, but it'll also be tough to hold on to gains. They'll be stolen from you almost as soon as you get them. So keep that in mind for Librans. For Scorpio, Scorpio of Vrishika, my favorite Sanskrit constellation pronunciation, but Scorpio is between November 14th, November 15th, and December 15th. And this particular sign has Mercury in the first house. It's the Lord of the house of gains, so this sign should experience new financial gains, but also there will be expenditures by your relationship partners, earnings by relationship partners too, but no, let me amend that. There'll be earnings from relationship partners, which will come in unexpectedly from past efforts. Sun, Venus, Moon, and Mars are in the second house. So this sign will be a little bit feel a need to find new ways to make money or secure money. But they'll feel kind of trapped or locked by previous patterns. So this will be kind of a rough 2 months for Scorpio Sun, Moon arising because they'll be wanting to take a new direction, but they won't know how to do it. Within a couple of months, they'll be able to do it. But right now, it seems they seem locked, especially financially. They seem locked in a really um, not necessarily difficult, but in their patterns or their habits. So they can't really see new ways to live or to make money. So let's go over to where Saturn is located in the fifth house. There won't be a lot of interest in entertainment for the sign. Rahu is in the fourth house. Family members will seem a little bit difficult or demanding. Jupiter's in the eighth house. We've already spoken about that. Gains from relationship partners. And Ketu sits in the 10th house, so lack little or no career recognition for this sign, unfortunately. So this sign probably shouldn't get into new relationships either over the next couple of months, and that's mainly because of Mars seated in the second house. For Sagittarius, this is December 15th through January 15th. We have that cluster of planets in the first house. It's almost, but not quite, a kind of a destructive cluster where people will want to achieve what they want to achieve no matter what. And they'll also call upon their partners and their to give up things. But relationship partners, they'll also have better chance of getting involved with new partnerships. Mars aspects Saturn, they're going to want to expect everything to be perfect, exactly as they want it. But again, as I've said before, this does indicate, even for Sagittarius, a certain clinging to the past. So they may be forced to make changes within the next 6 months, but not immediately. For sign K2's in the ninth, it sort of like feels like isn't going well, and Mercury's in the 12th. So there can be some financial losses caused by relationship partners for this sign, as well as some gains from relationship partners. Let's move on to mighty Capricorn. Capricorn starts on January 15th. It marks one of the beginnings of the Hindu New Year. So January 15th through February 15th. Makara Sankranti is a very important point in the Hindu calendar. It is celebrated around that time. I'll do a broadcast on financial prospects based upon Makara Sankranti, probably in about a month at the outside. Saturn is placed in the third house. Strong desire nature, dissatisfaction with financial progress. Jupiter's in the sixth house. This isn't really a bad placement, but it does indicate the person may not act aggressively enough to get what they really want. They'll be too afraid of offending people. Ketu is in the eighth house. Very good time for investigating occult or metaphysical realms or doing research. Mercury is in the 11th house, so good potential for gains through trade. But we have this cluster of planets in the 12th house, which indicates this sign will spend a lot this month, mainly on metaphysical pursuits or spiritual pursuits. Let's see now, relationship partners and Mars, family, and finally get down to Venus on children. Okay, I'm sorry, not children, education. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, children and politics and education. For Aquarius, Aquarius has Rahu in the first house. This is February 15th to March 15th. And Aquarius has Saturn, Rahu in the first house. So we'll be fascinated by new technology, new gimmicks, new ways of doing things. K2 is in the seventh house. They'll be attracted to unusual or strange relationship partners or business partners. It actually gives a bit of an opening for the sign to engage in new activities or get involved with people who are a little bit unusual or unorthodox. Saturn's in the second house. Again, not enough money coming in, it seems, for this sign. And I'm not saying that subjectively, like they're never satisfied. I mean, money is type for Aquarius right now. Uh, Jupiter is in the fifth house in the chart, so there can be some gain of funds through speculation or through investments or even through K2 is in the seventh house. We've already spoken about that. Mercury is in the 10th house, so that's actually good for expanding career. And the 11th house is loaded for this sign, so this sign will make a lot of money over the next week. Um, that may not seem realistic because it's Christmas week, but believe me, they'll make a lot of money. Um, and this will continue for a couple of weeks. For now, last but not least, we have our friend Pisces, Mina in Sanskrit, and Mina has Saturn in the first house, so that well, so this goes March 15th to April 15th, and Saturn in the first house can take the sheen of optimism away from this sign. It'll be very sensitive, very focused on education and studies. K2's in the sixth house. Yeah, we'll probably have to watch out for health issues. Um, by the way, everybody should watch out for health issues because, at least in America, there's been kind of a super flu. It's been making the rounds. So if you're feeling very sick, go to a doctor pretty quickly. It's not lethal, but if you're older, it's dangerous. So just take that as a friendly tip of advice. And I'm not saying this to scare you. I'm just saying it to make sure that you take care of yourselves. Okay. So this doesn't indicate that you're going to die, but it does indicate that the bug is going to be tough to get rid of. Um, Mercury's in the ninth house, good for financial gains. Sun, Moon, Mars, and Venus are in the 10th house, good for a revitalization of career. Rahu's in the 12th, still a lot of expenses for this sign, unfortunately. Um, so we have a lot of what are called 12th house activities happening in this chart in various signs, and that's usually difficult for financial success, but it can be had. But you'll actually see certain signs, especially like Libra, Aquarius, Pisces, um, Sagittarius, and even Virgo will see limitations on how much money they can borrow or how much they can spend. It'll be very obvious. So they may have to slow down on spending for a few months. Okay. So let's move on to the time and space map. Whoops. Get that on there. Okay, we're gonna make it closer. And we're going to make it bigger again. So let's see where the action is this week. Um, okay, so there is, so I haven't kept up on Canada. I know that Canada is still having, this is one of the provinces which Canada, which is thinking of seceding from Canada up in this region, not British Columbia, okay? I'm sorry, not Vancouver, not the Vancouver region, but this northwest region. Um, so the Rahu line going through there can indicate some governmental scandals, um, some governmental scandals in Alaska, and but this isn't really these lines really aren't interacting with any land masses. Uh, so I'm not going to discuss those, but we do have this moon line running through. Um, Western Canada, down through Washington, Oregon, and down into Nevada and Arizona and Mexico. So what that means in plain English is there will be changes or fresh starts in governments in those parts of the country. And you may see some people either kicked out or at least attempts at changing governments in those regions. Let's see now. There are no planetary lines over the mainland United States. That doesn't mean nothing's going to happen here. So I used a double negative intentionally there. Um, but I think that one of the things is the United States has other activities going on. Um, Congress is in recess right now. We're not going to see very much happen in Congress. At least Stefanik was the representative I was trying to think of earlier. She just popped into my head. So she's not running for either governor or representative again. At least not right now. So, and there is a Rahu line going through Newfoundland and Brazil, along with what is that line down there? A Mercury line. So there will be some governmental scandal in Brazil. The Jupiter line, one thing I would like to mention is Jupiter moon line going over Chile is actually indicative of not necessarily a regime change, but essentially a change in governance, a popular change in governance um, by the people. So this is the case in Canada, all the way down through Washington, Oregon, Nevada, and skimming into Arizona. There is increased scrutiny, and I don't want to get back into a 2020 cycle, but there have been increasing levels of scrutiny on certain electoral records in the 2020 election. Again, they may not be enough to make a difference in the actual outcome of the race, and that's water under the bridge. But at least in a couple of locations in Georgia and in Arizona, they have found at least questionable votes. So this is actually pretty interesting. But again, the jury isn't out on that just yet. But it is one news story I noticed. Um, so that will affect areas like Arizona over here. And we have this Rahu line, so there can be governmental scandal in Brazil and all the way down into, yeah, probably just isolated to Brazil, but I would say some positive change for Chile. But it seems linked to Argentina's success or lack of success somehow. So the verdict is still out on whether or not that change will produce the results they wanted to produce. So we'll see what happens. So I always keep an open mind on these things. Let's see now. There are three lines heading close to the Azores. There's a Saturn line like right on top of the Azores uh, on Greenland and Iceland. And Greenland has been in the news this past week. President Trump has spoken about Greenland as another state or U.S. possession again earlier this week. And the Greenlanders are adamant that they're not interested. Um, but there is some kind of a problem happening in Iceland. There may be some hit to the economy or some hit to, yeah, some hit to the economy, it looks like. Um, I'd hesitate to say a national tragedy, but that's one of the things I'm drawing from it. So maybe a severe accident or even volcanic activity. Um, Jupiter and the moon are placed closely together over Scotland, Ireland, Portugal. The guy who shot um, the Brown University students was Portuguese. Um, but again, I'm not trying to link this to that, but I am just saying the Jupiter and the moon being placed over Portugal and Spain and Ireland and Scotland do indicate changes to those systems of government, maybe even affecting places like ca- um, down through Chad and those areas. So, and I believe Liberia is in this region as well. So there are some potential changes in politics in Western Africa. Um, we have no lines running through Europe until we get to um, Ukraine, and Ukraine has a Rahu line running through it. So we already know there's a big scandal going on in the Ukraine. That was reported last week, not massively covered by ABC, CBS, or NBC, but it is interesting nonetheless. And it's you can Google it. It's pretty common knowledge. Um, so again, this will compromise Ukraine. Will also compromise places like Saudi Arabia and down into Eastern Africa. So it should be kind of an interesting time for these regions. Like this, I believe, is Syria over here. Yeah, so Syria will be involved in some kind of scandal as well. Now, as we go up through Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, I believe, and near Yemen to Iran, you have a Mercury line. So you'll be hearing more about those regions in the news over the next week or so, and mostly connected with governmental issues. And there's a Venus line running right through Iran. So this can indicate an issue connected with women or with trade. Not in Iran and Saudi Arabia. No, it is in Iran. And yeah, and there's a Venus line. There's a Saturn line running through it. So there could be some issues with trade or restriction of trade in Iran and also Russia. The Mercury line goes all the way through, um, I believe that's Kazakhstan. That's a real place. And it wasn't just made up for uh, Sacha Baron Cohen movie, and all the way through into Russia. So we'll be hearing a lot more about Western Russia and these former Soviet socialist republics in this region right here, and also about Saudi Arabia and South Africa and Mozambique. Let's see now. We have a Venus, a Mars, and a Sun line running through Pakistan, close to Afghanistan, and into India. So this could indicate tensions are heating up in that part of the world, also into China. And keep in mind, I keep telling people I'm seeing more danger in the Far East than I am even in Israel right now. And one of the things that I saw last week was that Cambodia is provoking Thailand. Uh, and you see this Jupiter moon line running up close to those areas, not quite in it, but also affecting Bangladesh and Ladakh. And so there should be some government reform in those regions. The regions involved are, this is Cambodia, and I believe this is Thailand right here. So those regions don't have any lines running through them right now, but that doesn't mean that this line won't affect them. It probably will. So that this does indicate changes or governmental reform. But China has warned Cambodia about provoking Thailand. So that's interesting. At least to me, it's interesting because it maps where I expected us to be right about now. There's a Mercury line running right through Japan, um, through parts of Indonesia, um, and right through Australia. And there's a Rahu line so running up through Japan and into Russia. Now, the reason I named them together is because they intersect down here in Indonesia. This can mean some kind of an economic scandal emanating out of Indonesia, affecting Australia and affecting Japan and possibly Korea. So I would keep my eye on those parts of the world for the next couple of weeks, at least. And let's see now. We have Venus, Sun, Mars lines in Eastern Australia. This can mean a lot of disruption to the government, a lot of disruption in social services. And I think that that's um, pretty much going to be the norm in Australia over the next few months. Um, the only lines that are running through New Zealand are Moon and Jupiter lines, and those do indicate a change or reform in government. Okay, so that's it for me for this week. Um, Again, I'm a little tired. I hope I didn't mess anything up. But I'm sure you folks will let me know. But I did want to get this out to you before the end of the day on the 21st. So let's shut it down for now. I'll see you next week. Remember to subscribe, like, hit that notification bell, smash it. Um, like it owes you money. No, I'm only kidding. Uh, just and make sure you share this video with your friends, families, or with people who you think would be interested because um, I'm not doing a large media campaign with this. I really don't have time to do that, and I don't have the money to do to pay people to do it for me. So I'm relying on you, the listening and viewing audience, to do that heavy lifting for me. So if you can suggest any ideas for me on a way to grow the channel, I'd be more than willing to take them. People have suggested shorter videos to me, or else streaming sessions. And unfortunately, I've just not had. Sometimes it seems like I can barely eke out time to do this one show a week, but I think that'll change come the new year. So let's stop it there. I don't want to bore you with my particular issues, but if we can get more listeners, viewers, we can potentially get more money in, and maybe I'll open a Patreon page. I have to look at what's really involved in that, and I know they have little tip jars on other pages. So that's a small way to make money. But I haven't asked for money up until this point. But I think that at least over the next year is going to put me in a position where I'm going to have to be supplementing my income, and the more different ways I can do it through this channel, or And if I can do it through this channel, it would be helpful to me, if I'm honest. So that's it for now. Thank you very much for watching. Even if you don't give me any money ideas, I still love you. I love you all. Thank you so much for watching. And have a wonderful, wonderful holiday for those of you who celebrate. And at least have um, the best wishes for you all during this season. And may you go forward and prosper. Thank you very much for watching. And namaste. We can do it. I know we can. You can do it. You can master your life. And I'm sure of it with mine as well. Okay. All right. Have a great week. And I'll see you next week. Bye bye, everyone. Thank you for your patience.